I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up, then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Lullo. I am super pumped to be introducing our guest speaker. Monica Stewart is a go-to-market consultant. She's actually known for transforming businesses. She's over 15 years in the industry, has generated millions of dollars, and has helped companies grow and scale their businesses. Welcome to the podcast, Monica.
Hey, Gabe, really psyched to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you have a tremendous background in sales and consulting. Take me through your origin story. How did you get into this career?
Yeah, well, I've pretty much been in sales my whole life, and then moved into SaaS, kind of startup tech sales about 15 years ago. And I think like for me, I really had this sort of pivotal moment where I started to realize that I wasn't doing the same job that everybody else in my role was. I just kept creating my own role in every company that I was at. And then I had this moment where in one 12-month period, the current company that I was at and the last 3 companies that I had been involved with all got acquired. And in a couple of those, the story was directly influenced by the work that I had been doing there. And at this point, I was in my first VP of sales role, like had just graduated out of, being an individual contributor. And I don't know what it was about that, but I think it was really a wake-up call that I was doing something that was very, very, very different from the normal be an AE, then be a VP of sales, et cetera, career path. And I realized that I kind of just wanted to keep doing that. So it took me a couple years to figure out how to fully transition into consulting and just working with companies on making those transformative leaps to the next stage. But I think that was the moment that something flipped in my brain and I realized that that was the path that I was meant to be on.
I love that. That's awesome. So you walk me through this because, you're working with client engagements, you're working with partnership strategies. Right now we're seeing a big lift in our partnership strategy and you really, partnerships is trending right now.
Yes.
All over LinkedIn, companies are really taking advantage of, creating partnerships and collaborations. What strategies are you finding most effective to really engage clients and partners right now, especially on platforms like LinkedIn?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that I'll answer this question in 2 ways. I'll talk about it for my own business, and then I'll talk about it for my clients. For my own business, what I've found to be the most impactful is taking a really, really, really intentional approach to partnerships. You would be surprised, maybe you actually wouldn't be surprised, how many people hit me up on a daily, weekly basis. They either pitch me in the DMs, or they want to book a coffee chat first time that I've spoken to this person, they get on the coffee chat, immediately just take me through a pitch of their company, talk me through their partnership program. We'll give you 10%, 20% commission. All you got to do is post this link on your LinkedIn. And I'm like, yeah, sounds great. In the back of my mind, I'm like, I am never going to work with you and I'm never going to talk to you again because you don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about my audience. You don't even ask me if I use your product or like give me a way to do that. And my audience deserves better than that. And my network deserves better than that. So I would say that's kind of the wrong way to approach partnerships. I also, the companies that I work with, um, I don't advise them to overinvest in tech or overinvest in services. And so I'd rather have a smaller stable of really, really, really great providers that I can stand behind 100% and that I feel comfortable working with my clients than, just kind of be trying to like sling these referral partnerships. And anecdotally, a lot of the other people that are in my space that I know personally and I'm friends with tend to approach things in the same way. And I know that's the way that you guys approach things too, which I really appreciate about you and appreciated about you when we met. For
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a different way of viewing the world, right? It's like you can be trying to play the volume game, or you can be trying to play the fewer better game. And I think that a lot of people are confused about which game it is that they're actually playing. They think that they can do quality at volume. But it doesn't work like that until you hit like a really large scale.
Yeah, for sure. So we're seeing, three things right now in go to market. We're seeing calls, which is, outbound calls still being a
Mhm.
huge channel for us when it comes to, generating leads. So I like alliteration. So I'm calling it calls, content, collaboration, right? So
Right.
calls is obviously still very important, especially in our space. Then collaboration and then content. And, let's talk about LinkedIn and content because I see to your point, a lot of people just pitch slapping me all day long. And
Yeah.
then I go to their LinkedIn profile and they're
Mhm.
posting nothing, right? It's
Yeah.
just like I just think it's always AI when I see that stuff. So where does content come in and why do you think posting content right now in this day and age, even the founders themselves doing it, is so important when it comes to go to market?
Such a great question. So the way that I think about it is this. So LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is your personal website. And that includes all the stuff that you have on your profile. And then it also includes all of your content. I can't tell you the number of people that will tell me that they saw a post, they went to my profile, they then binged a whole bunch of my past posts, listened to a podcast, started following me, then 2 weeks later they decide to reach out. That's what that funnel looks like. Like that is a awareness to education to intent funnel. Just trying to move right to like in-mail pitch circumvents the buying process and like the awareness process that we know that people need to go through because that's what we're doing in marketing in our companies. So why would it work any differently on LinkedIn? And I know that it takes a lot of time to learn how to post good content. It took me like years and dozens and dozens and dozens of hours. But I really encourage everybody who is investing in LinkedIn to invest in that part of their journey. And it is an investment, but it pays off so much in the long run. And it really does compound over time and it makes everything else that you're doing on LinkedIn more effective. So, like to use your alliteration framework, I would say it's like content is like the foundation. And then the second part of your pillar is engagement. So you need to be engaging on other people's content and building a network of, people that will then come to your posts and engage on your stuff. You need to have a community on LinkedIn. Otherwise, no one will ever see your posts. And then the third piece is direct engagement in DMs and emails.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is huge, right? Look, I want to unpack this with you because you said it's taken you years and years and years to figure this out.
Oh,
So
yeah.
hopefully our audience could shave off a few years when doing it themselves. I want to talk about more of like the client facing teams that are supposed to be posting and doing content. And then also want to talk about, the founders or the CEOs, right? So we have a lot of founders that come to us and we say, hey, listen, you're crickets right now on LinkedIn and you need to be posting. And then they say to us, well, I'm running a company. I'm too busy. I got to operate. I got to invent, create this product. And And I said, I get all that, but they need to hear from you. You're the horse's mouth. You're the visionary. You're the expert better than anyone on your company, no matter how big you are. What do you say to your clients when they're saying the same things to you? Because I know they are.
Yep.
How do you get a CEO or founder to jump in the deep end and start creating content, or maybe advice you can help them out with advice you can help them with too?
Mhm. I do have this exact same conversation with them all the time, and what I tell them is I'm like, "Do you wanna do this the easy way or the hard way? Like, do you wanna create a personal brand for yourself, or do you want to, spin your wheels for another 2 years, waste a ton of money on salespeople and SDRs that don't have a message. Like, what kind of a world do you want to build here? I actually have, because I get this objection so often, I created this little like 15-minute LinkedIn checklist. Maybe we can put this in the show notes. I'd love to send this to anyone that listens to the podcast that's interested. And I'm like, if you can't give me 15 minutes a day to build connection with your audience and customers on LinkedIn, like how serious are you really about this? I would say, like, look at, there are some examples of people who are doing founder personal brand extremely well, like, the most high profile one right now is, Adam Robinson from retention.com. I was just going through the presentation that he gave at the Pavilion GTM conference a couple of weeks ago, and it's really great. Like, it's so clear how he lays out the mistakes that he made and then what it actually took to build the brand that he has. But I mean, he's got now hundreds of thousands of followers. If you're building a Series A or Series B startup, you really don't need that many. And I think that what a lot of these founders underestimate is or overestimate is the effort that's required to be seen in their space. If you are building like literally anything except for like sales tech, there's not that many people in your industry that are posting. And the people that you want to get in front of are definitely on LinkedIn. VCs are on LinkedIn, investors are on LinkedIn. Every executive at a Fortune 500 company is on LinkedIn. HR leaders, CISOs, like CTOs, like they're all on LinkedIn. You know why? Because they're freaking millennials and they also understand the concept of personal brand and they're trying to do this for their own career and they want people to engage with. And they want to engage with founders because everybody thinks that startup founders are really cool. So it's crazy to me because such a there's so much selling and so much personal conviction that you have to have around your company as a founder to even get to the point where you can be having this conversation. And then somehow, when it comes to doing that publicly on the internet, they're like, ah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You just went and raised money for a product that didn't even exist yet. Like, you've got balls. You can do this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Adam's crushing it right now. And it's funny because Adam, has figured out a great healthy balance of, sharing, like he's sharing his P&Ls, he's sharing a lot, he's exposing himself. And I think it scares founders because they get this fear of like, oh my God, all these companies are just going to start competing with us and steal all of our trade secrets.
Right.
And the way I look at it, do hard things. Like what we do here at Alley Oop is super hard. And I always say, listen, if someone wants to copy what we're doing, go get them. Right. The
Right.
reality is like it's hard, right? And then building business is hard. So I just think that most people welcome you that. But I think it's more important to be transparent. So let's talk about that. What's content that's resonating, right? What video, of course, is going, really well right now. Writing posts, long form is going really well. There's newsletters that's out there and available now on LinkedIn. There's the TikTok, right, that they're beta testing right now on LinkedIn, where it's that reels type of videos that they're releasing across the platform. And then of course there's always this double-edged sort of like what's Instagram worthy versus LinkedIn worthy. You know what I mean? It's funny. A couple months ago, I posted a picture of my family, and it was all about like my daughter's first day of school and how proud I am, and this is why I work every day. And I thought it was a great post.
Yeah.
And I had this, troll on my LinkedIn that says, "How does this relate to sales?" And I'm like, really? And so like, where's that fine line to, be that LinkedIn content creator versus maybe other platforms?
Hmm. Yeah, that's such a good question. So first of all, I think it comes down to who your audience is. I'll break this down in a couple of different ways, right? Because there are people who are on LinkedIn who are their personal brand is purely about them being an influencer. Like I think like Zoe Hartsfield from Apollo is a really good example of this. And her audience is actually end users of Apollo. So the more that she's relatable and the more that she shares things about her personal life and like makes herself relatable to them, the more her content is going to grow because she's still an aspirational figure for them, right? So it's like being a celebrity. The more that it's like, oh my God, Taylor Swift eats pizza too. Like people love that stuff. If that's the connection that you want to make with your audience. For other people, their reason for building a personal brand is more about getting in front of customers or about creating an employer brand so that they can always have, top talent that wants to work at their company. In that case, the way that you're sharing things might be a little bit different. Like your angle on it might be a little bit different. The way that I think about it, and I think most people do, is like you have your top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel content. And so your top of funnel content is things that anyone can relate to. Like these are the things that are going to be um, opinions, observations about stuff, things that a lot of people would see and be like, oh, I'm interested in that. I'm going to see what else this person is about. Your middle funnel is where you want, once you've attracted people with the things that are the most broadly relatable, then your middle of funnel content are the things that help people get to know you better and bring them more into like your world. And so I would say that like that post for you was probably an example of middle funnel content because it helps people understand who's Gabe as a human being and like what's he really doing and what's this company all about. The whole point of building a personal brand is that you're attracting people that want to work with you because they buy in, they like your vibe, they buy into what you're doing. There are other companies that does what Alley does. There are other people that do what I do. And I mean, candidly, like I'm really good at what I do. And there's a lot of other people that are also really good at the same kind of thing that I do. And in some ways, why do people work with me versus one of the other consultants is a lot of it just comes down to like, do they want to work with me? Like, are they my tribe? Are they Team Monica? And I'm totally cool with that because I also want to work with people that I vibe with, right? And there's other people that are going to go vibe with like the 45-year-old guy in like the Patagonia vest that's like, Mr. CRO, IPO, whatever. Like, that's great. Like, they can go over there and then I've got my team over here. So I would say that the personal stuff is kind of that more middle funnel content where you're peeling back the layers and you're letting people into your world. And then your bottom of funnel content, your conversion content is going to be like results, right? Like here's actually the nuts and bolts of how I do what I do. And if you want this kind of result, and if you're into this kind of process and you want to know more and you want to know how to apply it for yourself, then let's have a conversation about that. So yeah, there definitely is a place for it. But I think where I got confused at the beginning and where I think a lot of people get confused is they don't understand how all those types of content fit into like an overall content strategy. And so they're just randomly posting like, here's me dropping my kid off at school. And then the next post is like, you know, whatever, a story about the first time that they got stock options and their audience doesn't know where any of this is going. And I would also say in terms of the trolling part, um, it's totally going to happen. I'm sure that it happens to you all the time too. Um, I'll also just call out like if there's women that are listening to this, if you're a woman on the internet with opinions, people are going to be especially mean to you. And it's mostly going to be people that are unqualified and have no idea what they're talking about. And it just, for whatever reason, you're going to trigger them. Um, some of the best advice that I've ever gotten on this is that the people that are trolls and the people that are haters are never people who have done the thing that you're doing or the thing that you're working towards doing. Because anyone who's been where you are will look at what you're doing, even if they're ahead of you, and they're going to be like, I see Gabe, like, I see where he's going with this. I was on that journey too. Like, good for you. Keep going, right? The only people that are going to come to you with that negative energy are people who have never tried to do what you're doing. And why would you care what those people think?
Yeah, it's funny because that specific post also got like one of the most biggest amount of impressions and likes and comments that I've ever seen also on a post. And I
That's
think it was actually helpful that that troll did that because they got pretty even more on our side because of it. But it's funny because, you're right that, if you don't have people, coming at you negatively, and my grandfather said you're doing something wrong, right? If you don't have people who are looking at you differently than that. Okay, now we have content being created. We have people doing it. We have posts that are going out. How do we track this and measure it, right? Like, what do we look for? What are we wanting to see? Like, are we looking at likes? Are we looking at, impressions? Are we looking at page views? Like, how do you, track success when it comes to your content strategy?
Mm-hmm. Such a good question. So personally, I look at my engagement score. You can calculate this yourself. I use a tool called Taplio that shows you for all your posts. So, number of people that saw it versus the number of people that liked, commented, or shared. That's what I'm looking for, because I'm looking for a very like targeted, very engaged audience. If you want to cast a wider net, or if you're just looking for, visibility, or if you have a really big addressable market, like if you're a copywriter or something like that, then you might just be looking for growth because maybe everyone on LinkedIn could relate to your content. If you're trying to convert within a niche and build a reputation for something specific, I would say engagement.
Let's talk about network. So obviously LinkedIn is a great way to build your network. It's a social network, but how do we take those networks and turn it into successful partnerships? How do we turn it into strategic partnerships? How do we turn it into revenue? So what do we do? So we're posting content, but how do we take that audience and actually turn it into dollars and cents for your company?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, this is going to depend on how you make money, right? So for me, I run a consulting business. And so my network is everything for me. Like I don't do any outbound to anyone. Like my entire business is reliant on personal connections, referrals, and like connections that come through my clients, through partners that I work with, and through, my peers that also do different types of consulting for the same audience. And it's really interesting. I've never done anything specific to ask people. Maybe a couple times a year, I'll run check-in, like catch-up calls with people that I haven't caught up with in a while. And in those calls, like maybe I'll ask, like, hey, do you know someone that fits this profile? Could you connect me with them? Or if there's someone specific that I want to be introduced to, if there's something that I'm looking for, I want to work with more accelerators, for example, or I want to meet more people in private equity. I'll go reach out to specific people for that. But most of the work that I do goes into cultivating like very specific relationships with people in different parts of my universe and like keeping up with them. Like I do, I'd say that I talk to probably 20 to 30 people like every couple of months. We'll just, hey, like we haven't caught up in a while. Let's put 30 minutes on the calendar, talk about what's going on with them. And there's no specific asks for those conversations. It literally is genuine relationship building. And then from that flows everything that I need. If you're running this for a company, like for your sales organization, you want to take a little bit more of a structured approach. So, what I usually do with my clients is put into place different plays for how they're engaging with their prospects and their customers, top of funnel, mid funnel. And then once they become a customer, how do you make sure that you're continuing to intentionally engage with them on multiple channels, with LinkedIn being one of those?
Love it. Okay. This is great. So trends, right? You got to stay ahead of the curve here. There's so many tools, so much technology. AI is changing the game, and there's so many startups right now launching different products in the go-to-market space. How do you sort through the noise, and how do you find, I know this is a multifaceted question, but one, how do you sort through the noise to find the best tag? And is there something right now that you see trending that is exciting you right now for the next 12 to 24 months?
Mm, such a good question. Yeah. So first of all, I love finding out about new tech. If you guys are listening to this and you have some cool ones, go to my LinkedIn, DM me. I want to know. I'm immediately sorry I said that. I'm going to get so many DMs, but there will be some cool stuff that came out of it. What am I doing? I think that like especially with uh, with the way that AI is going, and just how fast the cycles are running, like the number of new products that we're seeing come to market every single month is crazy. And I mean, we know why that's happening. Two trends that I'm looking at. One is summary and like network identifying tech. So there's a couple of tools that I'm really excited about right now that what they do is they basically take signals from, your calls, for example, and like other things that customers are doing across the ecosystem that you can tap into and surfacing like specific insights from that. There's also a couple of tools that are able to tap into networks beyond just who's connected on LinkedIn so that you can use this as a way to prioritize the companies that you want to be focusing on based on where you can get the most warm intros. And then also even use this as a way to create like a much more intelligent account map for large, like strategic relationships that you want to invest a lot of time in. I should mention that all the companies that I work with sell an enterprise product. So these things are like really interesting to me because the problem that those companies have right now is there's so much noise. You can always sell to Procter and Gamble. You can always sell to Walmart. You can always sell to UPS. But who should you be focusing on right now? And why, and like how are you going to cut through the noise of all the other vendors that are trying to sell to them? So I'm looking for things that don't give more information but that give like summary information and surface the right information at the right time. And then the second trend that I'm really excited about is the move from LLMs and Gen AI to AI agents. Like the power of AI agents right now, what we can see is where ChatGPT was when it first came out, like a year ago. And if you just even look at like how that space has evolved in a year, AI agents are going to blow our mind and like really revolutionize. That's the thing that's really going to revolutionize the way that we work in sales and in customer facing roles.
Awesome. So what do you think about data? Like there's a lot of data companies out there. There's a big, you know, war, I would say, going on in the data space. Is data, commoditized? Is it something that you think is going to look different? And where do you see it going, especially now that we have, a much bigger presence on social and these content creators like creating networks and partnerships? Is data that important, these data vendors, or what are your thoughts on that?
I actually used to work in the data space. So it is, it is different, but in a way it's always been the same. There's always been much more data available than there has been ways to really make it work for you and monetize it. And I think it's really the same today. Um, what I do see changing is more ways to collect data from people because there are so many like, and this is one of the things that I worry about with a lot of these AI tools is people need to understand that like any of these cool little tricks like the notebook LLM podcast that you can create and like all these tools that you can use for free. Like, hello, you are their training set. So you should be careful about what you're trying out and what you're hooking into your CRM and like what you're giving to your sales team to use. And we don't really know. And I think a lot of these companies don't even really know how that information is being collected and how it's going to be used in the future. So that's really something to keep an eye on. But in general, I would say the same thing. There's more data available than there ever has been, and there's more noise in the space than there ever has been. So I would say, especially if you're looking at sales teams, more data is not always better. Understanding the right data points and what to do with them is better. Otherwise, you're just overwhelming your team.
Exactly, exactly. Well, Monica, thank you so much for joining the podcast. How do people get a hold of you, and what is your ideal client? Who, if they're hearing you today on this podcast, who are they and what do they look like and how did they get a hold of you?
Awesome. They are a founder, CEO of a B2B SaaS company that sells an enterprise product between 2 and 20 million in ARR that is looking to get to the next stage of their growth and like meaningfully evolve the way that their go-to-market organization is working. Probably think anything from mid-funnel all the way to onboarding, customer expansion, and renewal. And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to get a hold of me. LinkedIn.com, Monica Stewart. All my podcasts are there if you want to hear more after this one. And if you want to chat, best way to talk to me is there's a little tile on my page that says book a call. And that will land you on my calendar so that we can book our own one-on-one strategy session.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, Monica. We appreciate you. And thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Awesome. It was really great to be here.